Hello everyone, I'm Dillionaire. I've never made a video like this before, but I hope to make more in the future. This is my thoughts and review of RWBY Volume 9, Episode 6, Confessions Within Cumulonimbus Clouds. If you haven't seen the episode yet, I highly recommend doing so as I will be spoiling it. Well, let's get into it. With the end of Episode 5, it was revealed to us that Jean has been in the Ever After for a long time. In learning this, his face has been unmasked in the opening. This hits a little harder after rewatching this episode with some stuff that we'll get into later. Anyway, we open with Jean's fall, much like Ruby's in episode 1. And he tries grabbing Crescent Rose, which is the only thing that he can see during his descent into the void. Waking up on the beach, however, he travels inland and finds a tree with very odd clock-shaped fruits. When he grabs one, the hands on the clock start going counterclockwise as the day turns to night and night to day, but backwards. Time is reversing very quickly, showing that he wasn't the first to arrive in the Ever After like we had originally thought. You can see colored shooting stars of everyone arriving, going back up into the sky as it reverses. Desperately trying to stop time reversing, he smashes the clock with his broken sword, and time stops going backwards. It's pretty horrifying to think about. Thinking of all the time that Jean must have spent trying to figure out just how long he'd have to wait for Team RWBY is heartbreaking. Just being alone with his thoughts and trying to cope with what he had to do at the end of Volume 8. We go back to the present, and Jean asks if it's really them, because he just can't believe that it is. Team RWBY comforts him by confirming that it is them, and they have a very much needed group hug. Our main characters haven't had time to rest for so long that this hug just meant a lot. Everyone is still here and alive, and they're all glad. Jean tears up here, and I know it just has to take everything to stop himself from bawling his eyes out. Team RWBY fires off questions, and we get a little moment where Weiss shows a bit of interest in the older, now mature Jean, and starts blushing and stammering when everyone just looks at her. Well, shippers, I guess the Ice Queen with daddy issues is the one with the crush now, considering how Jean is an actual hero from a fairy tale now. White Rosers, we must stay patient. Jean fills everyone in on what happened in Remnant after they fell, and that Salem has 2 relics now. Blake brings up that at least she doesn't know where the beacon relic is. And the team starts debating on their failures, how everyone getting out has to count for something, when Ruby says, "What good is saving anybody if Salem's just gonna destroy the world anyway?" This is definitely not something you'd expect from her in any other volume. She usually just tries to see the best in everything. I'm glad that Yang tries to be the big sis here and reaches out to her by saying she doesn't really mean that. It's how Ironwood thought. It seems like they're gonna have a moment together when an annoyed Jean interrupts. I really like the mood in the air for Jean here. He's sat on this dilemma for so many years already that he knows there's no point in thinking about it right now, and he takes a stern tone to ask if they're done yet. He comes off pretty rude because there isn't much time, and he's matured enough to know that this has to come first. Seeing everyone's reaction to what he says, I think he understands that he can't blame them, because, at least for them, it hasn't been very long since the fall of Atlas. It looks like Yang gives a signal here with her eyes, like she's telling Jean, "Can you not? She kinda needs some comforting here." And I just kinda like that. We start heading towards Jean's village. They mention the curious cat, and Jean gets so upset that he stops moving. What cat? Nobody can even question it before the cat itself just walks up. He starts talking to Jean like an old friend, and it just seems to make him even angrier because Jean tries to attack the cat before Blake stops him. Jean says that the cat hasn't warned them about anything, and that the tree they're going towards is death, or rather, ascension. I really like this rivalry between Jean and the cat because it just goes to show us that so much has happened in the world of Ever After that we just know nothing about. Jean has had his adventure here, and he knows more about the cat than we do, so it makes sense that if he was lying to Team RWBY, that Jean would get angry and try to help them. The cat says that the tree wouldn't make them ascend because they aren't of this world. Jean gets progressively more upset by asking him, "Oh yeah? Then what happened to Lewis?" Team RWBY is confused. Who's Lewis? Jean says, "Alex's brother." The reveal shocks Team RWBY, as Alex didn't have a brother in the book. Jean tries to get everyone to keep moving because the storm is still coming and they need to get to shelter. He says he has a plan. The cat takes a jab at him, saying that his plans haven't done him any good in years. Ouch. RWBY needs time to process before the cat says, "We're stuck at a crossroads," leaving Jean distressed before a white flash whisks them all away. The fact that the story Alex wrote, The Girl Who Fell Through the World, isn't just a one-way guide through the ever after isn't unexpected, but I do like that we may know even less than we thought we did. It makes the mind wander and think of even more possibilities that can happen in this wacky world, and things that might not have happened the way they think it did. After the flash dissipates, we are somewhere new. Jean says that we are in a punderstorm. Nice. A weather pattern that creates a real manifestation of a mental or emotional problem, being a literal and metaphorical crossroads. The only way out is resolving the problem or to wait out the storm, but I would guess that resolving the problem is probably quicker. RWBY asks where Blake and Yang are, to which Jean replies that they must have had something bigger to work out. I know we all immediately knew what was coming. But hold on to that for later, because I want to go over each group here individually, just so it's a little bit easier to talk about. So let's start with RWBY's group of Weiss, Jean, and herself. Judging from this sign, it seems their problem to work through is taking the path of Jean or the path of the curious cat. They wander around while Jean tells them that Alex's story did happen, just not the same way she wrote about it, that she was lying in her book. Jean begins to tell them his journey through the ever after. He waited years for Team RWBY to fall, but Alex and Lewis fell before them. He realized after he started helping them out that he was the rusted knight from the story he read as a kid. He goes on to say that Alex wasn't like how she wrote about in the book. She was selfish and cruel, and didn't care for the rules of the world, like it didn't apply to her. She didn't include their whole journey in the book, as they met with the herbalist along the way, and his visions changed her personality to be even more untrusting of others. This really made me think of how RWBY would have been if she fell prey to the rest of the herbalist's vision. She isn't as set as the rest of her team now, and the cat saved her from a fate that probably would have made her abandon them all. This story makes me remember in Volume 8, Oscar and Ozpin were talking about the girl who fell through the world, and how Oscar didn't understand why she was so sad when she made it back home. Oz replies that she wasn't the same girl anymore, and I wonder how deep we should actually look into that conversation. Should you take it as the original Alex, or instead RWBY, and it has yet to come? Given the information we learn later, it seems that we don't really know for certain what happened at the tree, just Jean's guess. Maybe she was sad when she made it back because she didn't sacrifice Lewis to the tree, but instead was taken against her will. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a topic for another video. Jean continues telling his version of the story, saying that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get the story back on track, that it's his fault. And he says a line here, "I couldn't even be the make-believe hero." This line hit me way too hard. And this is also what I meant at the opening at the start. He thinks that because of him, the whole story went up in flames, that he's ruining all of it. Jean has constantly had his confidence tested with every encounter and every failure. After the fall of Atlas, this had to be the final straw for his will. The fact that he can still continue on shows just how great he is and how much of a leader he's meant to be. He says that Alex poisoned him so nobody could get in the way of her leaving, and she won't be stopped. He thinks that the cat is the guide to get people to ascend. It just feeds them to the tree. Alex and Lewis went to the tree, but only Alex made it home. There's a lot to unpack in what Jean says here, and the fact that we don't know specifics about what happened at the tree makes me think there's a lot more to learn about this, and it isn't as cut in stone as the cat did this or Alex did that. There has to be another role in play here. Then there's Lewis. He apparently got taken by the tree, so it's safe to assume he ascended. This would mean he's still around in the Ever After, even after all this time. I've heard some theories that he might have been turned into Juniper, Jean's jackalope mount. I'm not against this, but so far, I haven't put my eggs into any basket yet. The cat appears and finds Ruby's group and says that its role is indeed bringing residents of the Ever After to the tree for ascension when they lose their way. Although, when asked, it doesn't seem to know what happened when they brought Alex and Lewis to the tree. Just that she had tricked him, said that she would take him to Remnant with her to leave. The cat realizes that it's just being used for information and thanks Ruby for teaching it what not to do. Ruby and Weiss look kind of distraught here, like this isn't what they wanted to happen. And Ruby says she just wanted to go home. But the cat leaves the group anyway while being down in the dumps. I'm very interested in how or why the cat can't remember what happened at the tree that day, almost as if the memory was just taken right out of its head. It probably doesn't even know who or what Lewis ascended into, or if Lewis even ascended at all. We'll probably figure out what happened that day in one of the final episodes of the volume. We only have 4 left. The whole time that Jean is telling us about these events, their group is walking past mirror-like objects that are reflecting what seems to be something that's taking a toll on them, or their own personal burdens that they carry. Jean sees Penny and his younger self to show us that even though so much time has passed for him, the events of Atlas's fall are still on his mind at every moment, probably wondering if he could have done anything better, anything different. Weiss sees Atlas itself falling out of the sky. Her home is gone and there's nothing that she can go back to. This most likely reminds her of her father's passing, too. Ruby sees this reflection, and she's about to reach out to comfort Weiss, but she stops. She doesn't know what to say anymore. If she could even help her anyway. It's so heartbreaking seeing Ruby in this depressive state. She is just a kid who had the whole weight of the world on her back, and she's cracked too much under all the pressure. Ruby doesn't directly look into a mirror like the other two, however we can see a very quick glimpse of Summer Rose as Ruby's reflection. RWBY are definitely getting us ready for something regarding Summer's story, and I don't think I can wait for it anymore. Alright, it's time. Probably the whole reason you clicked on this video. Hell, it's the reason I made the video. So let's talk about Blake and Yang. Blake and Yang are separated on rope bridges over a chasm with many missing steps, with a platform in the middle. Yang wonders how they take the next step. This is such a corny line, but I very much enjoy corny lines, so it sits well with me. Blake exclaims that she'll feel much better when they're together on the platform and a step appears in front of her. Yang thinks it works like a password system, but when it doesn't work, she says Blake will figure it out because she's good at this and has a good brain. A step appears for her too. Blake begins to believe the way to progress is saying things that they've never said to each other. Yang thinks of something to say, but says the comedic version instead. Just a plain, "You have cat ears." When nothing happens, she says what she really thought at first. "I think your cat ears are cute." Another step appears for Yang. Not wasting any time, Blake gives a speech about how she thinks Yang is an extraordinary person, and how she inspires her. Yang is visibly surprised by this. Many steps appear for Blake as she tells Yang to try to keep up. Yang takes a moment before giving her speech. Blake was never intimidated by her, and never gives up on what she wants, even if she's hurt. Many steps appear for Yang. To speed it up, she asks if there's something that they haven't told each other yet. When she sees Blake across the way, she blushes, but then doubts herself. The bridge pulls back, and then Blake asks if she just thought of something but didn't say it. Yang can't accept that her feelings for Blake is what this is about and tries to hide it. She thinks to herself that her feelings are like a cliff, and if she says them, she'll fall. Blake thinks that they're already falling, and urges Yang to just say it. Yang sighs and builds up the courage before saying, "I think I love you. I love you too." Blake almost cuts Yang off. They are no longer on the bridges, now together at the platform as the sun shines and lilies grow around them. They look at each other while blushing and smile before taking their first kiss, as the music hits its climax. This scene was absolutely beautiful. Everything about it almost moved me to tears, and I've watched it over and over and over again. The song that they use here is so emotional, it fits perfectly with the mood that they set. The speeches that they give each other before the confession really show what brought them together in the first place, and their kiss was filled with so much love. It finally happened, guys. A decade in the making, Bumblebee has become canon. The gays are winning, and they're trying to kill us all with their cuteness. And it's working. I could talk forever about this one scene, and in my original script, I did. It was extremely long, but I'm going to spare you all and continue on with the end of the episode and make a separate video on how much this scene means to me and what it made me realize. I hope you stick around and watch it. But continuing on. Once the cat abandons Ruby's group, the Punderstorm shatters, having resolved the crossroads they were all at. Everyone turns around, and Ruby is shocked to see Blake and Yang kissing. Blake's foot being raised here is a pretty cute detail. Yang asks if they've missed anything, as a way to tell everyone, yeah, we're together now. Jean says, "Feels like I've been waiting forever for that." Which was really funny to me because Miles Luna, the voice actor for Jean, is also the writer for the show. So it felt like he himself was speaking for the whole community. In the final scene, we've made it to Jean's house. Blake and Yang are sitting by the fire holding hands. Weiss is drinking tea and sneaking peeks at them. But Ruby is watching the two of them somberly. It seems like Ruby feels disconnected from her team now more than ever. She was surprised to see them kiss, so she probably didn't even notice that they had had feelings prior. She can't even bring herself to be happy for them yet because she's so confused inside. That's not to say that she isn't happy for them at all, though. I think that when she finishes her arc, she will be more than happy to congratulate them. Jean brings a box out of the side room and says that he's been holding on to something for her. And when he found it, he knew he caught back up to the time when everyone else fell. It's Crescent Rose. Upon seeing it, though, Ruby starts blocking out everything he's saying as white noise and zoning out, just staring at it. The edges of the screen go dark and fuzzy. Although, everyone's happy to see that she finally got it back, and she thanks John for finding it. The fact that Ruby can't even look at Crescent Rose without feeling this way shows you just how much turmoil she's actually in. She doesn't feel adequate to own the thing that symbolizes her hopes and dreams. Her dream to be a powerful huntress like the ones from the fairy tales. Her inspiration from Crow's weapon, which made her feel like the hero. Before Jean goes to bed, she asks him what really happened to Louis. He thinks that Alex traded him to the tree to get back to Remnant and then wrote him out of the story. He wishes goodnight to everyone as Ruby looks at Crescent Rose one more time before angrily shutting the box. End of episode. Alright, I don't like that last thought from Jean. If what he believes is true, that means a trade is needed to leave the Ever After, an ascension. Just like the payments for Jinxie's treasures in episode 2. I believe that Jean has made up his mind and will trade himself for Team RWBY to get back if this is the case. He's already lived a life, and he might believe that Remnant has no need for the failure he believes himself to be, and that They need the true heroes of the story. I can already imagine the scene of Jean telling them to say hi to Ren and Nora for him and thinking of Pyrrha right before he ascends, and Team RWBY gets sent back to Remnant. Don't do that to me, RWBY. It would destroy me. I could also see them using this newly formed relationship as a way to break our hearts when we get to the tree and sacrifice one of our bees. You know what? No, I'm not talking about that anymore. I don't want to give them any ideas. This episode of Volume 9 has been one that pushed me to make a video like none other. It was a push to start content creation, and in a separate video, I'll tell you about what I cut from this video's original script and about why the Bumblebee moment means so much to me. But this episode's rating is a 10 out of 10. Absolutely amazing, and I hope to see many more like it in the future. My predictions for the next episode are a RWBY mental breakdown, a short scene of the curious cat finding our Mad Hatter Neo, and a little bit of Summer Rose's story being shown to us. What do you think will happen in the next episode? Let me know in the comments section. Thank you all for watching, and if you've made it all the way to the end, I'm glad that you, hopefully, enjoyed my first real video. Please consider subscribing to see the next video I make. See you then!